All right, all right. Welcome to episode number 3 of the Art of MVP Development. Um, Today, I think we're talking about something very interesting. Our title is The Fear of Launch. I can't remember if I came up with this or if you came up with this, Mac, but I feel like this is a
No,
really interesting topic to get into
no, you
today.
you
So
came
I'm
up with it.
excited. I think it came up
I'm
organically in a
excited too,
conversation.
but not well. Yeah, I think it came up in a conversation for sure, but I'm trying to think here.
I feel like it
I
was
guess
actually in
I
the
guess
first
for us,
episode.
yeah, because yeah, maybe so. But like, let's jump into it. Like, um, where do you think? First of all, let's set the context. So me and Jessica, we work on a number of programs, especially in Detroit at a kind of an early accelerator, I guess, called Tech Town. I always don't know what to kind of classify Tech Town as, but we're working with a lot of early stage entrepreneurs, and they do customer discovery. Then we help them build a very minimal viable product using no code, low code tools. And then what happens is that we're like, hey, the whole reason why we're using these tools is so that you can iterate and show people what your product looks like. Um, and for some reason, like they get stuck. They just won't show people, like it's not pretty enough. They don't feel like all the features are there, and they just get paralyzed, and they don't like start like showing people the product and starting to try and get customers and learn. I think that's where this came from. Is that about right, or am I did I leave something out?
No, I feel like that's on point. But it's so many different components that all kind of plays a factor in it. So I'm glad we can kind of talk about it today because it's one thing when you're like observing one founder, two founders, three founders, but now that we've been doing this for like a few years, and inside and outside of that same like ecosystem as well, you can just notice a
Mhm.
trend where people are I don't know. There's a lot. I don't want to like. I almost don't want to get off into it immediately, but there's a few things that I've seen, like glaring issues I've seen from the development side,
Mhm.
it probably overlaps as well with what you've seen from like the coaching side as well. But it's just so funny because people work so hard and put in so much work, effort, and energy, and then you get to like this is like you're at the very end, like the finish line is right here. It's right there. You got to cross over it, and it's not something that anybody can do for you. So I think it's important for us to talk about like what are the issues that people are running into and how can they start to like accomplish or tackle those challenges. Because ultimately, if you don't launch anything, like what was the point in the entire build that you went through and all the blood, sweat, and tears that you did so far is just not really going to go anywhere without somebody seeing the product, regardless of how imperfect the product is in the beginning.
I, I think that's the root of it. I think you hit it. I think in people's mind, they think they're gonna have $100,000 version of whatever they're thinking about in the app store when they get done. Um, but they spent like 15% of that on this app. And the reason why they spent 15% of it on this app is because that's all the money that was allocated in order to build this. And the whole reason why we are building this is to really test if your customer discovery was done well, and if you have the ability to find these customers and can convince them to buy it. So this is all a test, and I think that's where people get it confused. Like they think that this is going to be they think this is going to be the end all be all of their product, and that if this isn't successful, they're done. And that's just not the case. And so I don't know. I think that's the fear. It has to be the fear of why people are, and then life gets in the way as
Yeah.
well.
So for me, I think I've worked with a lot of folks that well, for one, I would start by saying that I see the value in the MVP because I think I said this before, but I've had a lot of experiences where somebody might come to me and they say they have this idea. They always It's always a grand idea, right? And they want somebody to build it, and then they don't they either really don't have the money for it, or they spend all the money they have to build the thing that they swear that people want, just to find out nobody wanted it, and now they can't like pay me to make any changes because they spent the whole budget on the first build out. So it's just like we've been trying to normalize, I think, what does it truly mean to build an MVP and what's the purpose of the MVP. The MVP is not your actual final product. Like, and as a founder, I think I know working with a lot of founders, I know me being a person who has my own endeavors as well. Like, you have that grand scheme in your head, and it's really hard to detach from that and see that you have to build brick by brick. Like it's almost like with a house. Like, people just think like, okay, I want the house to just be there tomorrow. It's like, but they got to put the first brick down and then the second one and the third one. Otherwise, you can never actually get there. You have to be okay with seeing your house with just the cornerstones and knowing that, okay, this is solid, this is good, I can build on top of this. But it's a mindset shift that I'm not sure a lot of people are like mentally prepared for when they come into the process.
I think that's what you also, man, you've been seeing a lot of gyms lately, man. Like that's the
We
next
got
one.
it
It's
on. We
like,
got it on recording.
yes.
Yeah.
I think it's a mindset shift. It's like, you know, I think people are so used to seeing applications at their end state, but
Mhm.
they don't remember. I mean, like people have such a short memory. I remember what Amazon.com looked like. I remember what Facebook.com looked like. I
I
remember
remember
the
when I
second,
wouldn't touch Google. I'm like, I'm not about to Google nothing. What is this? All they got is a box on the
yeah.
screen.
And so I think people like they forget that. And now, of course, like the bar is leveled up because now apps come out, they look like they're all the way complete. So maybe people get maybe mixed messages or something of that sort. But that like you're like it's almost like you're not Instagram. You're not you don't have millions and millions of dollars to put towards development. You just want to solve one little problem for people and hope that problem has a big enough impact that people love your product and they start downloading, and now you get more money to go add another feature and iterate. So i I don't know, man. I think what you just said about a house is a good analogy. It's like, who, unless you get in a manufactured home at some they wheel it in and they drop off the garage, they drop off the bottom floor, like you're not going to even in a no code paradigm, which is where maybe people are also getting confused. We're like, oh, this is no code. This is we should be able to put things together really quickly. Da, da, da. But still, even with the no code environment, like it still takes time to kind of get all the pieces to work and have a cohesive application. So I just think sometimes people are just misguided in regards to how long it takes to really build an app. And and this is my last thing, I'll let you respond, is that I think people get building an app and building a business
Mhm.
confused. They are not the same. You build a business, in order to support that business, in order to run that business, you need an app so that people can access the workflows and business processes you put together. But you need to have a company that you can, you need to have something there. So I think that's also the issue.
Yeah, that's a good point because honestly, it's I'm always harping on the founder education, founder education. Like, we got to educate the founders. Um, and it's different in different markets, but here in the Midwest, in Detroit, it's like I'm used to startup life because I've literally worked my entire career in startups. So some of this is just so normal to me. I just been indoctrinated into the process over and over again. I think even in development in general, for the most part, a lot of companies have moved to a more iterative like process. That's just something that we're used to now as developers. But if you, especially coming in without a tech background, without a development background, it's just a new skill set to really get into. So I don't know. I just think it's interesting. I hate to see people like stagnate when they have momentum, right? Because like we have programs, we have like different funding opportunities, all these different things that can be coming up for somebody. And I really hate to see a company stagnate just because they're not ready to show somebody the ugly baby, as we as some people like to say. Um, And like you said, it's a gap in what they remember or see about products when they first launched. Like, we don't think about the first versions of products. We just think about what we see now today. But even any of the biggest companies that we had, like back in the day, all you could do on Instagram was put a filter. Like Twitter was like 140 characters. That's it. It's just a feed. I can literally get an intern to build a version of Twitter that we all loved, from the original iteration. Now, yeah, they built a business, so they actually can afford to hire, to scale out, to have different arms and different components. But you have to figure out, like, come back to what is the one thing that you're trying to do, and let's start
Yeah,
building that, and let's actually prove that that's a thing before you go and throw all your money in there.
yeah, that's the thing. Um, and I don't know, even during this latest iteration of MVP we did, we really wanted the founder to really start showing the product earlier. And I thought that would help get them over it. It didn't, because like if it, if certain things weren't there or it looked ugly, they won't even want to show that. Like
That's
they
what I'm
want to
saying.
wait
It
till the
probably
final.
exacerbated the same issue because now it's even uglier and even less refined.
Yeah. Yeah, but I was really just trying to get them comfortable with going out and like pitching it and talking about it. Because that's the other thing. It's like okay, even if the product was perfect, even if they had 100,000 to put into this product, like you still need to go out and tell people about it, because nobody's saying, ooh, I cannot wait to download another app onto my phone with the other 1,000 apps that I have on my phone. So I I don't know, man. I
I was
think
gonna bring that up actually because so you're talking about what I was thinking about is like, are people scared to talk to people? Because
mhm.
that's a part of your launch, right?
Yeah, I think some people are. I think so with customer discovery, we're not like sitting there monitoring them, right? We're not sitting there like, all right, you go talk to them and we're gonna watch you or anything like that. So we don't know how well people are doing in front of customers. I mean, obviously to me, the biggest test if somebody did customer discovery successfully is obviously if somebody buys the product immediately. But two, the second thing is like, can they articulate to somebody what the product does, and do they feel comfortable doing it? To me, that tells me that they went out and did customer discovery, because you got like that's the whole. To me, not only customer discovery is good for like figuring out what the customer wants, but it's that muscle that you have to learn to get out and to like defend your product or to handle exceptions and things of that nature. And sometimes I think people aren't they don't really put themselves out there, right? And I think that's one of the things that I would like to see people do more and be more intentional about.
How much of that do you think like the technical founder versus non-technical founder plays a factor? Because now I'm thinking like, well, I'm used to going and talking about products because I have to every like Friday. I used to have a job where we literally had to demo every Friday because it was a consulting firm, so we just had clients, so every Friday, whatever project you're working on, you got a demo for them. So I'm used to having to stand up, defend what I built. But a lot of times in this case, we are working with founders that are non-technical.
Yeah, I mean it's difficult. I mean it's difficult because this is not what they do every day, right? So a lot of the people that we're working with, this is like their side hustle, right? So they're trying to get it off the ground before they leave their job. So they're just dealing with a lot going on in their day to day, and then to come back and be able to pitch there. Now, the people who can do that well, I think they'll go far. But there's a lot of people that have great ideas, but like you said, it kind of dies on the vine because they don't know how to articulate what they're doing, and obviously getting checks and getting people excited about it is all based on you being able to convey what you're doing and getting people like super excited about it.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking like I'm trying to think of other interesting like observations that I've had. Um Definitely like I would say on the technical side, for the record, I feel like technical folks, we just we just like to just get real intricate. We like to know that everything's gonna be optimized and it's gonna scale, and it's like, okay, but who are you selling it to? Like, you didn't even figure that part out yet. But we don't think about that. We're just like, I want the fastest database. I want reads and writes in under 0.00005 seconds. And it's like, okay, but you don't have a product. You can't show anybody anything. But we like, sometimes, I think I mentioned this before, but like as developers, we're trying to pad out our resume with like whatever sounds cool and trendy instead of, like you said, building a business. And you'll just basically get to a point where you just are building on something forever and literally nobody's ever seen it.
Yeah, we had that problem, right? We had that problem where we kept telling the technical founder of this company, like, "Yo, use no code, low code." And like, "No, we don't want to use that. It's not scalable. I don't want to pay every month to use a no code, low code platform." And we're like, "Yo, this is gonna allow you to be able to test something out really quickly, and then almost 6 weeks later, I guess they finally rolled something out on their own, which wasn't fully complete, and I wasn't able to actually use it. I don't think,
No, we never
but
actually
anyway,
got to use it. So that's the downside. You
uh,
have to let founders do what they're gonna do because it's their company at the end of the day. Like, you could be a coach and a consultant and everything, but people are gonna do what they wanna do. Everybody's grown, so can't force you to do it,
mhm.
but it's just like, we've been learning so much and just really trying to help people make progress. But not everybody's always gonna see the path forward in the same way that we see it. So I've just been trying to figure out, like, how can we get the buy-in? It's all about buy-in of the process. And I've even been having to remind people that the MVP comes from, like, this is not something we made up. Like, this is this is a whole process that came from, like, a very popular book that a lot of people have probably forgotten about nowadays. And I don't know, I just feel like it's starting to get dated with the newer generation coming in. Um, and to me, newer generation in tech does not have to necessarily be like, oh, 20 somethings, because people transition all the time. So I look at it as like, when you get that new batch of recruits into the industry, they have their own mindset, their own things that they've been trained on. I just feel like we're starting, I don't know. I just feel like I've been around long enough to where a lot of the stuff that used to be like, oh, we all know what the what's that one book?
Lean startup.
The Lean Startup. Like, everybody knew Lean Startup. Lean Startup was on every shelf. It was at every coffee shop, co-working shop. Every tech place had a copy
Hmm.
of it. Now I don't know that
Right.
people even know what the Lean Startup is.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good point. I mean, I don't know. I think if you're one of these people right now listening to us that has a product built, um, and you're scared to launch it, don't be. Just go and do it. Even if things don't work all the way, that's fine. Long as you can go see the order, you can go fulfill it yourself. It's okay. Everything don't need to be automated. You just need to like fake it till you make it. It's okay. And I want people to really just lean into that because I mean, it's very difficult if you're looking to go get investment up from like in regards to like funding your product. It's easier to go build out something yourself and then show like, hey, this thing does this thing does that, or run a award or whatever. I don't know. I'm just thinking like just I'm kind of rambling, but I'm just thinking like just just go do it, man. Just go make it happen.
Yeah, you have to get out of your comfort zone, or you have to become comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's really where a lot of the quote unquote fear is. To me, I don't think that you have to like say, oh, I'm not afraid anymore. I think you're going to have to do things afraid. Um, Now that's not like a second nature habit for a lot of people. I think I'm one of those people, and Mac, you're one of those people where it's like we just come up with stuff and like, oh, all right, we just gonna do this. And I don't
Let's
think we
launch it
think
tomorrow.
we don't think too hard about it or get too stressed about it. We just go do shit. But not everybody is like that. And I think that's okay. But you do
Yeah.
have to recognize. I just think like when people are coming in, they say they want to be a founder, you want to be a CEO. Like you really have to understand what does that truly mean. We always see people like, oh, this person is out front. They get to talk to everybody, and everybody is acknowledging them. But that is a lot of hard work, and it's a long-term investment too, because if you want to do like VC or something like that, like 5-10 year relationship, right? It's not going away overnight. It's not going to blow up overnight. It's not going away overnight. So getting comfortable being uncomfortable is so important. And hopefully, I would recommend that you are making sure you have the right people in your circle that are going to be pushing your boundaries and not letting you stay in the safe zone. Because honestly, like I love my friends, because in my friend group, we don't let people just sit around doing bullshit. Like we not for that. So it's like I might not even show up for a while because I know somebody's gonna call me out on something that I said I was gonna do a year ago and I haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
So but to me, that's a good friend. I don't want a friend that's gonna sit here and tell me everything is good. Oh, it's okay. You know, it's scary. So since it's scary, you just don't have to do it. It's like, yeah, you don't have to do it, but I don't know. It's the pain. I feel like I heard this recently. Is the pain of staying the same going to be harder than the pain of change? So some
Mm.
people, I feel like it's in you when it's like, then I might be scared, but this opportunity is right here. Am I going to take the opportunity to build this startup? Am I going to take the opportunity to tell this person about it? Or am I just going to sit here and be quiet? It might be painful to do both, but one of them is going to be way more worth it than the other.
And the other thing is like, what do you have to lose? Like
That
what?
that is a big that's a big one.
What what do you got to lose? What
Literally nothing.
possible if people don't like the product, they won't buy it. Or they'll buy it once and they won't buy it again. But guess what? Now you can go to them and be like, what didn't you like about it? What was the problem? And you got to say, hey, I'm looking for just really truthful like responses. And even if they're your friends, that let's go to them. I mean, I in my business that I do today, I mean, I sell phone service. I sell phone service to a lot of my friends who have offices, and I think sometimes people are scared of like what people are gonna think about the product. I have a fear about that sometimes, but you just it's gonna be okay. And if you let people know, people are more forgiving than what we think.
Yeah.
Like we say, like, oh yeah, man, this isn't working. This feature is broken because blah blah blah. But we are working. We're planning on getting this feature going, and people will be like, okay, all right, no problem. All right, we'll give you some time. We'll go work on that. So I think people get caught up in the fact that they don't want to have to go explain to people why certain things aren't working. People will get it. Yeah, or you just tell them, you know, what the issue is. I don't know. I just think that shouldn't be a non. I think that should be a non-starter for most.
Yeah, you have to I'm like I'm not afraid to be afraid. So, and but
Mhm.
it's a muscle. Like after a while you get used to like what's the worst that can happen? I'm going to be embarrassed because something is not going to work the way I expected. I'm going to be embarrassed because I'm going to stumble over my words or whatever. But it's like you got to start somewhere. So I don't know.
Mhm.
This is more it's more of a real talk type of thing. But honestly and truly, I think like for the most part, when I've seen founders that were afraid to launch or they were hesitant, I don't want to say they were afraid, but they were hesitant. It's like you overthinking it and you complicating the situation. The whole point to launch early is to learn. You want to know if it's something wrong. Like you actually want them to tell you, because I promise you, I don't care how long you built it. If you haven't put it in anybody's hands, like I don't care how much you tested it. I don't care if you did TDD. I don't care about none of that. Somebody's going to find something wrong once you give it to an actual customer. And the sooner you get to that and you can resolve it, the better. And I think that a lot of times, like you can get so much more buy-in from, especially those initial customers that know that they're starting with you from the ground up, when they get to see the incremental improvements every time. Like they will go to bat for you. Oh, yeah, they just got this one new feature. Oh, I could just move one pixel to the left, but it's fancy because I couldn't do that before. Like people will really be on your team. But you have to be
Mhm.
willing to put it out there and get them involved in the process rather than, some people are not really used to getting feedback, um, and comfortable with getting feedback, but it's necessary.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the big thing. Like for me, a lot of times, um, yeah, I'm not going to even lie. This is not in front. Sometimes I'm like, I don't have the time or energy to go after customers on my own when I'm launching something. I will go put some Google ads up and say, okay, and just run a small campaign. Like if if that's what you need to do, go do it. Now that's not the best because you're not talking to humans. Some algorithm is showing it and they may buy it, they may not. Um, but either way, if you do it that way, just make sure that um, you're scheduling time to talk to these new users. So, for example, Clubhouse, I remember when they first became big. Whenever you join Clubhouse, they would have a kind of like a meet and greet virtually on Clubhouse with the founders. So new people will go and listen to the story of the founder and how they started this whole thing. Um, that was a great way to start connecting with your user base and to better understand what they need and things of that nature. So maybe it may be beneficial for some folks to um, figure out some type of mechanism, such as Clubhouse did, to get people at least like congregating, talking about, and all that good stuff. Because at the end of the day, um, people are going to be buying these apps to put on their phones. So you need to, or whatever it is, whatever the app is, whatever the business is that has some tech behind it. Um, there's just people, so we just got to get over that whole thing.
Yeah, you
One la
mentioned I was just
Yeah,
gonna
go
say
ahead.
one thing that you mentioned, because I'm
Mhm.
thinking about actionable things we could do. I feel like more
Yeah.
founder stories and more startup like lore would be helpful for people because like you mentioned, some of these stories we just kind of know because we've been in the industry, like, oh, Airbnb did not start out the way that they are right now. They just used to spin up for events. They were in one location. Like it was very simple. Um, and those types of things help. And then I was gonna say, just being around other founders, I think you have to understand that you're in a very, very small subset of the population that is very, very like our experiences are very different than what a lot of people experience on a day to day. So getting around others, you will learn that you are not alone, and what you're feeling and what you're going through is not something that anybody else hasn't gone through. But it's different when you can talk to somebody who really understands and can still walk you through that process.
Yeah, I think becoming part of a community, and there's so many different communities, but of course you got to find the one that you feel most seen, heard, understood, safe at. But once you get in there and you start like-mindedness, like Jessica said, man, things just kind of go fast because you're like, oh, is that how you do this? Oh, this is how you do it. This is your strategy, and then you can start borrowing strategies from people and starting to do some interesting things and better understand who your customer is.
Yeah. I feel like I did cut you off in whatever your final thought was
No,
gonna
I
be.
don't. I don't know. I don't know what I was going to say. Actually, I don't know. I think I was done though. Um,
Okay. Well, I don't
uh,
know. I'm like, I hope that I hope it's helpful to even open up the discussion, and we're open to discussions and comments and things as well, obviously. Here having the YouTube channel for the podcast, and I think we should launch the audio podcast as well. But wherever you're listening or watching, feel free to like drop questions or comments or advice for other founders, because I think that that's extremely helpful. It's a very isolating feeling to have, to be a first time founder, and really just you don't know what you don't know. So we're not trying to put anybody out there and make it seem like anybody is lesser than. I just think that the more that we can educate and expose each other, the better that we all can be. So if you have something that you want to add to the conversation, definitely share that.
yeah, for sure. I mean, what Jessica said. I mean, this is really just to hopefully this particular podcast, this episode in particular, really inspires some people to go out and just start doing it, and don't worry about what people have to say. Um, just start building your product. Start doing it. And if you don't have a product, right? If you don't have an app yet, you haven't built anything yet, it's okay to fake it till you make it. You can stand up a little website, go to a Square store, whatever you need to do in order to start proving out your idea. So it doesn't have to be perfect from day one, for sure.
Yeah.
So, so we're at our 30-minute mark. What is your selfish plug for the day, Jessica?
I feel like I never have this mentally prepared. Honestly, I've just been putting a lot of hard work in on the next iteration of the Hacker House. So, we will be releasing more material soon. Just to really talk about what we have done in the house and what we're planning on doing. Like obviously 2025 is coming up. So, I would love to just keep pointing people at that. So we have the Art of MVP, artofmvpdevelopment.com. You'll see more MVP type stuff there. And then we'll also have DetroitHackerHouse.com where we can focus a little bit more on founders, what kind of programs we have, and when our next application process is going to be opening.
Yes, and everything she said. I'm super excited about the next iteration of the Hacker House. We're really figuring out how this works. It's like it's different because I've done hackathons where I'm with developers and we're working on stuff for 24 hours, and so that's one night, and that's a great way to figure out what somebody's made of because you get to see them through all of the you know I would like this like in a you have all four seasons, like you get to see people
Yeah,
through
you gotta
like
see people when you see somebody at like that 3 o'clock in the morning frustration
yes,
level. That gets you get a little opportunity just to really, really see who you working with.
yes. And it's important. Like it's very important to be able to do that. So if you're thinking about building a company with a team of folks, or if it's just you as a founder and maybe a technical founder, like a non-technical and a technical founder, it's so important to see how people react under pressure, right? Little sleep, little food, maybe. I don't know how much food they're gonna have there, but you know my point. You get to see them react to these things. It's a good indicator, a good leading indicator if this person is somebody that you want to work with for the next 5 to 10 years. So
Mhm.
that's all that I wanted to share about that. So I'm excited. I guess we will talk to everybody next week.
Yes, we skipped our last episode, but we are back. We're really founders. We're really running programs. So you may see us, you may not sometimes, but just know that we always have something cooking in the background. We'll be back again next week for episode 4. And in the meantime, what are we talking about? Build, ship, learn. You got to keep going through that process. So get something out there
Build,
and let people tell you
ship,
what they think about it.
learn. That's right. Build, ship, learn. Take care, everyone.